Hey guys, thanks for joining in. This is, I believe, webinar number 8. Could be 9, but I believe it's 8. And today is actually a really interesting one. I'm going to really enjoy doing this one. It's really all about that customer experience and looking at the math behind it. So, I've said it before, it's that small business competitive advantage, which is, owning the customer relationship and owning that customer experience. I've said it again and again and again, and I'm going to keep saying it. But in this video, I wanted to actually take a look at the numbers, like actually prove with math how it's going to increase your profitability, as well as going through a case study, a really famous case study. It's almost one of the world's most famous case studies about what customer experience and positive customer interactions can do for your bottom line. Cool. So this agenda is tentative. I actually changed it just a little bit right before starting this. So don't go through it too much, but it'll be about 20 to 30 minutes. I added a bunch of math, so I want to walk through that. So that alone might be about 5 minutes of it. But don't worry if it's really super basic math. So it's nothing like calculus or anything like that. Cool. So I'm going to start off with this number, the 43-to-1 ratio. This ratio was come up with a man by the name of Joey Coleman, who wrote a book called Never Lose a Customer Again. It's a book that came out earlier this summer in 2018, and I really enjoyed this book. But basically, he prefaces the book with like why this book is really interesting and why there's a need for it. Basically, he did a bunch of analysis on Amazon books, and he saw that there was a 43-to-1 ratio in terms of books that are about sales and marketing versus books that are about customer retention and customer experience. Which, if you think about it, kind of makes sense. So for every 43 books sold that are about making your first sale, finding a customer, there's only one book, only 1 out of 43, only one book is about keeping that customer happy and increasing your relationship with that one customer. So, I mean, I think this is really interesting. I think it explains a lot about how we as entrepreneurs think about marketing and our approach to marketing. Our approach, especially for new entrepreneurs that don't have that experience yet, will focus so much on getting those first customers and a lot less on growing the relationship with that each individual customer. I understand that as a new business, you don't have customers yet to grow, so you're going to spend most of your time on getting new customers. But when you make that first customer, don't ignore it, right? Become like their best friends. Like the first 100 sales you make, you really need to become on a first name basis with those customers. Call your first 100, learn about their problems, their passions, what they want to use your product for, how they found out about you. Like, just develop an incredibly strong relationship with your first 100 customers. And that's going to be the basis for this. So anyway, I thought this was a really interesting ratio. I think it's not that one is more important than the other. I actually believe that the second half is more important because that's what's going to get sustainability in your business. But I just think it's interesting that it really does mimic our society and just the business attitude that most entrepreneurs have is more about getting that new customer rather than keeping an old customer happy. So anyway, like I said, we're going to be going through the math behind why we shouldn't be spending 43 times more effort on getting a new customer. It should be the other way around. We should be spending a lot of our efforts retaining customers. So I think one of the reasons why that might be the case, why this 43-to-1 ratio might be the case, is because I think a lot of us consider customer service and customer experience as a cost. It's a cost center. It's a cost base. It's something that I have to do. I wish I didn't have to do this. Right? So because it's considered a cost, people don't like doing it because people don't like costs, right? So if you label something a cost in your head, you're just not going to want to do it. But if you label something as an investment, then you're going to want to do it. And I think that advertising really has been marketed as an investment, like Facebook, Google, anywhere, even Shopify. The way that the words they use around advertising and marketing online, digital ads, things like that is very much through this attitude of it. Think of this as an investment, which it is, but that's not the same attitude where the customer service and customer relationship apps use or exploit or kind of get across when they're talking about their services. Really, it feels like a cost. So why is that, right? Why is it that advertising considered a cost, but advertising considered an investment, but customer service is considered a cost? Because I think really customer service is the investment, right? We'll go into the numbers to kind of prove this, but I think it's just really interesting. The example here that I have written is businesses will spend, tons and tons and tons of money reaching out to new audiences and trying to attract new customers. But when those customers want to reach out to them, they make it as hard as possible, right? They have their phone number that's like a hidden number on like their 5th page at the bottom of the page. It takes like 48 hours for them to respond to an email. It's crazy, but it doesn't take you 48 hours if you wanted to buy the product, right? It's instant. So, why can't that pre-sale or post-sale customer service also be at least near real time, if not instant, but as close to instant as possible? So, and again, this is just a preface to the rest of this webinar to kind of explain this idea and why this might be happening for you guys to explore why you might think this way or why others might think this way. So let's jump into, why I believe it's important to spend more time on the customer service and customer experience rather than the marketing and acquiring new customers. So we all know there's an enormous rise in this trend of e-commerce. It's not a trend, it's here to stay. I think we all know that everyone's going to be buying stuff online. You don't have to spend time in traffic. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to take a wallet. You don't have to, for something that might take you an hour or 2 hours to do in face-to-face or in the real world, you can do it in 5 minutes online. So I think that's why e-commerce here to stay, as well as that the technology is making it really easy for even small businesses to just start up and get up and running. Like just anyone watching this webinar, assuming it's because you have an online store, think about how easy relatively it was for you to do it this decade, like, compared to what it would have been like in the early 2000s, right? Or even before that, where when most big businesses were established. Think about how much harder it was for businesses to start 20 years ago than it is now. It's incredibly easier. It's way hundreds or thousands of times easier now. But what that means is not just it's easier, but it's also cheaper. Now, what that means is there's going to be a lot of competition, right? Like my 15-year-old sister could start a store and is thinking about starting a store. Like she's in high school. And I think that in 5-10 years, maybe 10% of all high school kids are going to be running an online store selling things to their friends or the rest of their high school or to other high schools or whatever the case may be. So, your level of competition is only going to get more and more, right? If the way that you should think about this is the number of competitors you have today, as of today, is the least number of competition you're ever going to have. Because next month, next year, next decade, there's going to be more competition for the problem that you solve or the need that you meet. Whether it's the same product or not, it could be a substitute product. It's not necessarily the exact same product you sell, but it could be another product that serves the same passion or purpose or problem that you're currently solving, right? There's many ways to solve everyone's problem. So anyway, just think about it like that. There's the number of competitors you have today is going to be the least number of competition you're ever going to have. Think about that. So how do you compete, right? What's your differentiator? And I think, earlier differentiation was something like price or quality. If somebody asks, well, what makes you different than your competition? Oh, our prices are lower. Okay, well, what about you? Well, our quality is better, right? So the answers were always about price and quality, right? But I think now more and more, those two elements are more equalizing, right? Prices are all coming down. Everything's being manufactured by robots or in China, or, eventually it'll be robots back in the States. Like manufacturing will move back to the Western world, but again, it'll be all robots. So it won't be people doing the jobs. It'll be robots doing the jobs. And so prices are going to come down because it's going to get cheaper and cheaper to make these products. Quality is going to go up because now robots are making these things, and they don't make mistakes, and they're doing these things perfectly. And so, I think quality is going to keep going up and prices are going to keep coming down, and that trend is going to generally keep going. And so where really is the differentiator in 5 years, right? Because price or quality is no longer going to be a viable differentiating factor very soon. I think that next frontier, maybe even the final frontier, is customer experience. It's how not just your product makes your customer feel, but how just them doing business with you makes them feel. Just them spending time on your website, how does that make them feel? Them being able to call you and getting an instant call back when they request a call back, how does that make them feel, right? If somebody, this is one of our apps called Raven. It's called Raven Callback. Basically, it's a widget on your website that you can embed anywhere on your site under the add to cart button, wherever. It says, call me back. This is my number. You can schedule a call, and then boom, right away at that exact time, very soon you get a call back. And that is, I've been using it for my store, and the first time I used it, the first thing the person said was, "This was the best. I couldn't believe that you called me back in 5 seconds. This is the best customer service I've ever gotten." And so that type of experience is what's going to keep your business in business, but also to keep growing. So again, really think about that customer service and that customer experience as your brand differentiator. It's also your competitive advantage, right? The big businesses can't do that, right? So going back to my whole spiel about the small business competitive advantage, which is, I believe, webinar number 1, the very first webinar that I made, it goes to the 3 general common advantages that I believe small businesses have over big businesses. And that is that you can do the customer experience. As a big business can't have one-on-one conversations with all of their customers, right? But you can. That's your advantage. So use it. These big businesses should be really afraid of us, I believe. Okay, so let's dive into the math. Okay, for those of you that are not mathematicians, it's okay. This is really simple. This is not going to be calculus. So there's this guy named Frederick, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Reichheld. So Fred is the author of this really popular book called The Loyalty Effect, just basically about creating customer loyalty and retention with your customers. He's a consultant for these big loyalty program businesses like Air Miles and things like that. They read his books and they kind of do what he says. He's considered really famous in his field. He also created this thing called the NPS score, the Net Promoter Score. Some of you have probably already heard about this, but it's basically the score between 1 and 10 when you ask your customer, how likely are you to refer us to your friends? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 highly, it's incredibly likely, and 1 not at all. So this NPS score was actually considered to be a really good leading indicator of a company's growth, because as long as your average was over 8 or 9, I forget what the exact number was, but you would have an incredibly world-class organization and service and product if it was above 8 or 9. So that was a leading indicator. So businesses wanted to know where do they lie, right? If anything was below a 7, then that's something that the businesses had to be worried about. But anyway, this guy Fred, he came up with that. And because he's an expert in this, he came up with this number that this 5% increase in customer retention will lead to a 25% to 100% increase in profits. So first of all, when I first read this, I know that this guy is really well known and he's famous, and he probably knows more about this topic definitely than I do. Definitely knows more than I do. And so when I saw this range, I was like, well, this range looks silly. It's 25% to 100%. That range is so high. And also, where is he getting his math? So I was thinking about this for a while, and I couldn't figure it out. So I thought, why don't I just do my own simple math with one of my with one of the stores that use our tools. I reached out to her and asked her if I could use rounded numbers from her store, and she gave those numbers to me, and we looked through it and we worked through it together. It's something that I'm helping her with increasing her retention. So I wanted to see what these numbers would look like for her store. Because again, I think that this will depend on the type of product it is. It depends on the margins of the product. It depends on how much of a consumable product it is. Is it some product that people would need to buy more often than not? I think it just, that's why there's such a large range, because it depends on so many things, like the industry, the product, the country, the customer, the margins, the costs, all that stuff. So I thought, okay, let's just go through something basic with one of my clients. So this is the math. So basically, on her store, we're taking a look at her store, assuming no retention, right? So no customer retention whatsoever. Her monthly average orders are about 200. So she gets about 200 orders a month. Her average order value, not product value, but average order value is about $60. So the average person spends about $60 at each checkout, whether it's on one product or 4 products or 5 products. The average is about 60. The monthly average revenue on that number, just do the quick math, it's about $12,000. So on average, she's making $12,000 in revenue per month. Now her cost of goods are $30. So, right there is 50% of the cost of her revenue is her cost. So $30 right away we take, because that's taking it right out of her revenue. And then marketing costs, her total loaded marketing costs and how much she spends on Facebook and Google, because those are the only two paid marketing campaigns she does, which drives the majority of her traffic by far, like 90+%, is $15. So that means that for every order, her average profit is $15, right? Not 60, but 15. So $15 times 200 gives us $3,000 per month in profit. So she's making $3,000. She's taking $3,000 home every month. This is before tax. So it's probably even less than that after tax. Now, let's add retention into this. Now, out of those 200 customers, let's say that 10 of them repurchased. So 10 of them made another purchase, okay? Or 10 of them are, let's say, last month's customers who are now buying again this month. So the customer number, order number is actually 210, right? 10 of them being the new customers. I have a mistake here. Let's take that out. That should say 10. Change the color. So not 20, but 10. I made a mistake. So the monthly, so we have the average order value. Obviously, it's still staying the same. It's about $60. Now, with those 10 repurchases, her revenue that month would be $12,600. So she made an extra $600 that month. Again, cost of goods still the same, about $30 an order, and then the marketing costs are $15 on those 200, but $0 on the 10, because she already spent the $15 the first month or the previous month when she attracted those customers, but now because they're being retained, she didn't have to spend any money on them. So those 10 customers didn't cost her anything. She still had to spend money on the obviously the cost of the goods, but that's it. Now this way, in this case, her monthly profit becomes $3,300. So just doing the quick math here, so that means that 10 customer repurchases is a 5% retention, right? 10 over 200 is 5%. Which is actually a 10% increase in profits, right? Because 300 is 10% of 3,000. So it's a 10% increase in her profit. So in this case, 5% increase in retention resulted in 10% increase in profits. So it is skewed. Now, we weren't able to get to like how Fred got to the 25%, right? A 5% increase becoming 25% increase in profits, a 5% increase in retention being 25% increase in profits. That didn't work out for us in this situation, But over time, I believe that maybe it would, because if you're factoring in things from the next case study, which I'm going to tell, which is from Zappos, Tony Hsieh, the Zappos shoe company, Tony Hsieh Zappos shoe company, what Zappos found is that a retained customer actually spends more. So whereas the average order value for a one purchase customer, and I found this on my store as well, by the way. I should probably do a case study on my store too. So $60 is the average order for a single time customer, but the average order value was like $80, $90. I'm saying hypothetically, could be $80, $90 on a customer that's a frequent buyer who buys maybe a third time or a fourth time. So I believe that over time, this is just looking at a 1 month, resulted in 5%, resulted in a 10% increase in profits. But if we take into consideration that the average order value for the second and third time customers will be higher, we could easily be seeing 25% increase in profits, and maybe even more, again, depending on the type of product that it is. Imagine if this is a product that people have to buy every month, like if it's beard oil or shaving cream, or, you know, something that you have to keep, like, buy something new every year, like maybe shoes or socks or underwear. Like, you know, if you're creating retention on those types of products, it's worth even more for you to focus on retention, right? So anyway, these are basic numbers here. So let's dive now into the Zappos case study. So those of you who don't know what Zappos is mostly big in the US, in the United States. It's not really big here in Canada or the rest of the world, but Zappos is basically an online shoe store. They started earlier on with the rise of e-commerce. I think they followed suit after Amazon launched selling books. But basically they thought, hey, let's sell shoes. There's nothing special about their shoes. It's a commoditized product, right? It's the same shoes that you could find at a Foot Locker or a Champs or Aldo or wherever you're buying shoes. You know, for women, for men, kids, adults, they sell all sorts of shoes. So, you know, someone might think that, well, it's so much competition. Like, you can buy shoes anywhere. I could walk down the street here and there's like 4 shoe stores within like a 4-block radius. Like, what's those, you know, there's just such a high level of competition, right? Prices are, again, the prices would have to be competitive. So it's not like they're charging a lot, and the quality are the same as anywhere else. So how is it that they became so successful? They ended up creating a business that enjoys a 75% retention. So basically on any given day, 75% of their orders are coming from customers who have made a previous purchase. Right, so that's really crazy. That's crazy. That's a great number. That means that 25% of those of every day's customers are brand new, and because they have such a high retention rate, now they're going to keep buying. And so, anyway, it's actually a really great story. Now, a few years after they launched, don't know exactly when, I think it might have been like 5 or 7 years after they launched. They got bought out by Amazon for $1 billion, over $1 billion actually. It was like 1.2 because it was a stock deal and Amazon stock price went up after the agreement. So at the time that they actually closed the deal, it was over $1 billion. And so again, this story is like, how could a business selling shoes become a $1 billion business that Amazon wanted to gobble up because they felt threatened by this? So we're going to go through this case study. So before we, to set the stage here, let's take a look at what most online businesses would do, right? This is how I started when I was doing my store. This is how probably you guys are thinking about this when you're launching a new store, trying to grow a small store. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to budget more on your ads than on customer service or customer experience, right? Because we talked about that whole thing, investment versus cost, right? You're going to look at your ads as an investment. And so let's say that for a $100 order, you're reinvesting $20 of that order into your marketing costs for acquiring the next customer. So every time you make $100, you're going to take $20 and you're going to spend it on Facebook ads to get that next customer. Right? This is where that marketing cost comes in. When we were looking at the math, right? It would cost $15 to acquire a $60 customer. So basically, in that case, what my client would be doing is taking $15 from every average order and investing it to get another customer to also give her $60 back. So she's trying to create that cycle there, right? In this case, I'm just using round numbers, $100 sale, taking $20 out of the $100 and reinvesting it to get another $100 sale, right? So that's what most online stores will be doing, but they're not going to be spending, if any, money at all on the customer service and the customer experience, right? This is what most stores do. Now, what Zappos does is totally the opposite. So out of that $100 sale, Zappos is going to take that $20 and instead of giving it to Facebook or giving it to Google, they're going to take that $20 and spend it in the customer experience, right? And how are they going to do that? They've done a few things. They will upgrade them to free shipping, right? So this is free overnight upgrade. So what they would do is if a customer selected regular free shipping, and there's an overnight option for an extra $10, $15, $20, whatever the number may be, it doesn't matter what the number is actually. A first-time customer gets free upgraded shipping as a surprise, just as a surprise. Zappos will take that $20 and give it to Canada Post or give it to United States Postal Service, USPS, or give it to FedEx, DHL, whatever, and say, all right, guys, this customer needs overnight shipping, and they just eat the cost, right? They just do it for them, for free without even telling that they're going to do it. So now the next morning, customer gets back from work the next day or wakes up in the morning and suddenly their order's there. And they're like, whoa, I thought that it was going to take 4 days, 5 days, or 7 days to ship. I got this the next day. That is a great customer experience. They've definitely earned very long-term loyalty and a great first impression by doing that. And they've created retention. They know that this is going to create retention for them, right? We're looking at that 75% retention rate. That's because of things like this. They know that 75 out of 100 customers that they first-time customers that they do free overnight shipping for are going to buy again, right? So why would they give that money to Facebook or Google? Why wouldn't they just give that money back to the customer and make them feel really good? And actually depend on that word of mouth marketing as their true form of marketing, which I'll get into more a little bit later. Another thing that they've done in the past is to send free pizzas to certain customers. So again, customer is buying maybe for the first time, or is maybe a second, third time buyer, but they call in to get customer support. By the way, they have 24/7 customer support, very, very low wait times. They probably get 5 to 10,000 calls a day that they're answering right away. They have a huge call center based in Las Vegas, I think. They'll even they have the autonomy to order their customers a free pizza if they get the sense that a customer would really appreciate it. They have that autonomy to go above and beyond and just give a next level customer experience. And they've done that, right? They'll take, instead of that $20 or $15, giving it to Facebook and Google and hoping that it'll get another customer, why don't just give that back to the customer as a gift in some other form, right? As a free pizza or overnight shipping, something they can touch. But not necessarily, all right, here's $15 off your next order. Like, that's kind of boring. Like, that doesn't really, maybe it drives retention, probably does drive retention some way, but it's not special. It's not a special, it's not a surprise. It's not delightful. It's not something that a customer is going to tell their friends about, right? Something like free overnight shipping, a free pizza is something that they would definitely tell their friends about next time they're hanging out. The cool thing about the pizza is that you can't just eat one whole pizza yourself. You're going to share that with your friends or your family. And so what's going to happen? Hey, babe, where'd you get that? Where'd this pizza come from? Oh, Nadeem sent me a pizza. Whatever your business name is, sent me a pizza. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Now that conversation started. Now, who knows who your wife might tell? Who knows who your friends might tell? Now, it's more than just a one-person interaction. And you've actually, by sending a free pizza, you've created an interaction for up to 20, 30 people, potentially, if you've targeted the right influencers. So, by the way, this is an app that we built called Pizza Party. It actually does that exact same thing. You can set, whatever amount. It's a really fun passion project. I'm really glad that we made it. I've been trying to make this app for over 1.5 years, and we finally made it by the time you're watching this video, it might be in the App Store, but search for it. It's called Pizza Party. But basically, you'll send free pizzas to your best customers. You can set the level for what you consider a VIP customer. So any customer that, let's say, spends over $100 or $200, you can say, just send any one of those people an alert that they have a free pizza on me with a message from you. And that's it. You get a free pizza. And just to say thank you. And it makes your customers feel really, really good. And in this case, again, I tried this. I read that Zappos did it. So I tried it for my own store, and I sent a $15 pizza to one of my customers. And that customer ended up referring at least $500 more in revenue. So that was probably one of the best ROI I've ever seen, way better than me spending $15 on Facebook ads. And so again, this was why I feel like we really need to talk about this as small business owners is let's not rely on Facebook and Google anymore, because it's only going to get more and more saturated. We all know this. It's only going to get more and more expensive. The bigger brands that now are moving into Facebook that have multi-million or even billion-dollar budgets to spend on marketing, we're going to get destroyed. Like our ads are just not going to reach. We're not going to be able to compete against these big brands. So we need to start going this other route, this guerrilla warfare, very in the weeds, in the forest type of marketing strategies and tactics. And that's why we're building apps like Scout and Raven and Pizza Party. And we have a bunch more on the way. But this is why we're focused on apps like this. Anyway, enough with the shameless plug. Let's get back into this webinar and the case study. So yeah, right. Like this is why Zappos is having a 75% retention rate, right? Whereas the average store that's going this traditional route is getting less than 15% retention rate. Now there's a range here. A 30%, by the way, a 30% retention rate is considered excellent. A 30% retention rate is considered excellent. And we're looking at 75% here in Zappos. I think even the biggest and best Shopify stores, like we're talking about the Fashion Novas, the Kylie Cosmetics, Gymshark. I don't know about Gymshark, but I know that Fashion Nova and Kylie Cosmetics have above 70% retention rate on the year. Like, again, those are ridiculously high numbers. And both of those businesses that I just mentioned with a 70% retention rate, they are the two top selling stores on Shopify. Right? Kylie Cosmetics is probably going to do $1 billion in sales next year. Same thing with Fashion Nova, is probably going to do $1 billion in sales next year with a B. We're talking about billion with a B. And again, they have the 70% retention rate. So you're seeing that these crazy $1 billion businesses are the ones that are really figuring out this retention thing. Whereas the majority of us, the schmucks, are not even at 15. And I think there's a very clear reason for that. So, I was going to do a YouTube video to show a talk that Tony Hsieh, who's the CEO of Zappos, that he made about their whole attitude around marketing and retention marketing, especially. But the way that this webinar works, it wouldn't take the audio when I do that. And the video is kind of limited and doesn't play on other sites. So I transcribed his audio in this part, and I'm just going to read it for you. But this is all what Tony Hsieh had said. So our whole philosophy is take most of the money that we would have spent on paid marketing and instead put that into the customer experience. And then let the repeat customers and word of mouth customers be our true form of marketing. So a lot of the things we do in the customer experience domain, we really just think of our marketing dollars. And you can see that repeat customers tend to spend more, and they also come back more frequently and are biggest word of mouth advocates. Right? So this shows that what I was mentioning to before, that a repeating customer is actually spending more and buying more frequently and telling their friends more often than the customers that are just buying once. The way you do that is just to make them feel really good about doing business with you. You earn their trust. You tell them, you reciprocate that trust quickly. Somebody gives you, this is the interesting thing with business. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but this is the interesting thing with e-commerce is that, trust is a two-way street, right? When you go to a store, you can see the product, you can talk, you can know who you're talking to, you know their vibe, you can feel the sense of the store, you can feel the sense of how busy it is, you can see other people in the store. And there's, the store is actually earned trust with you first before you give them their money. You can trust that they have the product because you're seeing it, you can touch it. You can trust that they make sales and they're established business because they have a store and they have a guy that can pay salaries, they can pay rent. So you can trust that they have a viable business. And then they've kind of earned your trust first, and then you make the payment. Now with online, it's a totally different thing. With online, the store really hasn't earned any trust at first at all. It's like I said, my 14-year-old, 15-year-old sister can make an online store, and you don't want to trust her. If she was selling, $2,000 mattresses and furniture, you're not going to trust a 15, 14-year-old to know how to run a business. You're not going to just give them $2,000. And so you don't know, right? The more and more stores that are going to be created, the less and less trust we as consumers are going to have or are going to give on a first impression basis. Our first impression is just going to be, all right, cool. Yeah, there's a store. Okay. So what? It's like, it's like glass half full or half empty. In that case, from that case, it's a trust is half empty because you haven't earned the trust yet. So with online stores, that's the thing. We have to trust, we have to hope that the customer will trust us first by what we have on our site and the videos and the content and images and social proof and things like that. We're hoping that we earn the trust first, but then they have to take that bigger leap and actually pay the money and spend money. And then we take like a week, or let's say a week, to give them their product. And so it's not really, if you can reciprocate that trust online immediately, right? Which is why I believe that free overnight shipping is such a great thing, and why I think sending a free pizza is such a great thing, because it might take you 3 days to send them your product, but it'll take an hour for the pizza to get there. So you're reciprocating that trust as quickly as possible. You're building that trust. And I think that's really how we need to be looking at our stores. It's all about trust. So to conclude, really what we should be doing about this, what's the takeaway from this, is we just really, first of all, we need to make it really easy for our customers to reach us, right? Whether you're using the phone number on your site, if you don't feel comfortable putting your phone number in, you can use the Raven button, which is what we've built Raven for. Just this button that you click that says call me back, and then you can call your customer back if you don't want them to know your number on the website. Again, talk to your customers proactively reaching out. This is why we built Scout, proactively reaching out and having a one-on-one conversation with an abandoned customer who we call, what we call pre-sale customer support, like the pre-sale customer support, earning trust before they spend money with you. That's what Scout helps you do. Not just that on the abandoned cart alerts, but just proactively reaching out on follow-up alerts, or on VIP customer alerts or recurring customer alerts. Just again, proactively reaching out at opportunities that you have when you can build a relationship. That's when you want to reach out. You don't want to reach out when they're not thinking about you. You don't want to reach out when they're doing something else. You want to reach out when they have just taken an action and are engaged in your brand. That's when you want to reach out. That's when you want to build relationships. Again, like I said, show appreciation to your buyers. Send them free gifts, send them free pizzas, tell them that you super appreciate it. Like, they're spending money with you. Like, that should make you as a business feel really good, right? That's like your tribe. These are your people. Like, these are people that you need to think of as like, as people you want to inspire, and people you want to thank, and people you want to show appreciation to. So think about it like that, right? And again, make first-time buyers feel really good. Give them those quick wins. A first-time buyer should get their product very, very, very quickly. A first-time buyer should get a pizza, should get a free pizza. A first-time buyer should be able to install your product without a problem. I'll give you an example for what I do. As you may already know from my earlier webinars, I have a business selling bidets, and bidets need to be installed in toilets. And once the first time customer buys, I have an alert. I know, because I have tracking numbers on the orders, I know when an order gets delivered. And when an order gets delivered, I call them up and say, hey, I know that your order was delivered today. Let me know if you need me to walk you through the installation over the phone. And man, that earns so much trust. So many times I have this conversation, and because the average person has more than one bathroom in their house, by the time I'm done walking them through installing the day, they've bought 4 more because they had 5 bathrooms. That's happened before. There's one customer has 5 bathrooms. They bought 1 to test, called them up. We were installed within 5 minutes. Boom, placed an order for 4 more pieces, right? That shows you how to retain customers actually spending more. So instead of them spending $80 just once, now they spent $240. I gave them a discount because they were retention, but now they're spent $240 again. So they went from spending $80 to an extra $240. And just because of me giving that customer an early win. The day that the product was arrived, was installed without a problem. So think about that. How can you give your customer, for the type of product that you sell, how can you give your customer a quick win, an early win after they receive your product? So yeah, just some things to think about. And thanks for your time. I super appreciate you guys watching these videos, and look out for the next one. Peace.